I'm not doing well, Alex.
I hate fantasy football. We're back, baby. Michael, how you feeling?
Man, I'm dead inside. This has just been painful. I don't even know why I keep playing. It's just stress induced. I'm broken. Logan, you broke me.
Damn right.
Yeah, to be 2-3, constantly putting up good scores, it's brutal. The good news is everyone's pretty close to 2-3, except that bastard CJ that's 5-0. But anyways, welcome back to the My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy Football Podcast. We are welcomed by our special guest today. He's probably in a better mood than Mike and I, coming off of a fresh win. Please welcome in Logie Barnes.
What's up? What's up? Two-time Sacco.
That's true. Everyone
Coming
knows
in
that.
humble. I love it.
Coming in humble. You know, it's pretty hard to be a two-time Sacco. It's an unwanted skill that I have.
Okay.
This is not starting out how I thought it was. I came prepared with some insults and ready to go. And Logan just comes in.
You just got to nip them in the butt, you know?
I didn't even put it on the docket to talk about that. I was happy for you. I thrashed your team all last week, and then you came in and whooped up on Michael real good. How are you feeling?
Pretty good. I do appreciate the FaceTime, the 30-second FaceTime, and apologizing for saying that I have a bad team. So I'm feeling pretty good.
I FaceTime Logan on Sunday to apologize. And then he starts introducing me to all these people he's in the room with that I've never met before. So it just turned into a painfully awkward experience. So anyways, all right, well, let's go ahead and dive into it. Michael's on a strict timeline today. So I think let's start with the top scorers, low scorers. So our lowest scorer with the awful quarterback starting choice.
Man, you are one pathetic loser. Loser.
That's
feel good, man.
over and over again. That's Chris Armijo. And Chris Armijo wins that game if he starts Justin Herbert. What are your thoughts on that, Michael?
Chris Armijo wins that game if he does several things just differently. Randall Cobb, man, there's better. I mean, I understand that he lost by 17 looking at it, or 27 looking at it. He had several moves that I just don't understand. Chris will be set up to win for wins in the future. I think he's just got to trust his players. I know Allen Robinson's had a bad year. Put him back in your lineup. Christian McCaffrey's coming back. That's a cheat code. And start Justin Herbert. He's your best quarterback. Yeah,
no doubt. Just got to make better sit decisions. And, you know, the easiest go-to in fantasy is always start your studs. And then our high score for the week. That was Trenton's request. He just sent me, I want hallelujah. That can mean many things. There's lots of different songs, but I ran with that one because it looked the easiest. Trenton was our highest score on the back of a ridiculous outing from Mark Andrews. But good work there, Trenton. You fall to second place in the league, only behind our undefeated Christopher Knox.
What an amazing Monday night game, by the way. Talk about just fireworks and lack of defense. It was just wild to watch. Mark Andrews, man, that's starting to look like a pretty solid move for Trenton. I think he's the only one who hasn't dealt with injuries in that trade, if I'm not mistaken.
David Montgomery has entered the chat on that. Trenton's team, you know, it seems pretty well rounded at this point. That Mark Andrews trade looks like it was pretty good for him. I'm talking about real quick. I just want to clarify that Tyreek Hill has battled injuries. Oh, Cooper Kupp hasn't battled injuries, but David Montgomery, Joe Mixon. Oh, you mean the individual?
Everyone's getting injured within that trade.
Oh yeah. I mean, we'll dive more in injuries here in a second, but it's been a whirlwind for running backs. Yeah. I mean, running backs left and right. I mean, you've been kind of affected by that. We'll talk more about that. But good work there, Trent. Yeah, and about that game last night, I turned it off at halftime because it was really boring. And then I checked my app this morning, and I was blown away. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into injuries. And I think I'm going to let you take that, Michael. How are you feeling? Because you have no fab and you've lost your first round pick. What's going on in your mind?
It was kind of a perfect storm. So Saquon goes down. Initial thought, I thought he was out for the year. I mean, that we all saw that ankle balloon up. I thought broken ankle, IR, season ending, and kind of had PTSD from last year. I don't think, for those that don't know, when you lose your first round pick, it's no longer about winning the league. It's just a matter of like surviving and maybe seeing if you can scrape by to make playoffs. It's brutal, and seeing that Chris McCaffrey's probably coming back this week. The Chuba Hubbard, pickup is probably going to be irrelevant going forward. So it was a tough week, but I think it. In all honesty, I'm not so worried about the loss as I am like when you lose a starting running back. That's worse than any 1 week loss you could possibly have. So it was pretty rough.
Yeah, that's a brutal injury. Good news is it looks like it'll be, temporary, right? You'll get him back. You are probably in a little bit of a jam for a running back starter if CMC is back this week. So you're just going to be working on some trades, or haven't figured it out yet?
It was interesting. So CJ is the only one, and props to CJ. I think CJ has been killing it this year, and his team showed out this week. So tops to him. He's actually showing like a worthy 5-0 team. He's the only one who actually reached out to me with a possible trade, and I'm a little surprised that people aren't trying to capitalize on that. So typically, when you see an injury go down, like a big injury, people are scrambling. Like, I need to replace my running back. I would think someone would send an offer. To answer your question, there's been a couple things I've been looking at. It's actually hilarious because our guest is probably the person that I need to be speaking with directly.
And he's known as being really easy to trade with, isn't he?
That's not so much the case, but so for those that don't know, Logan having Russell Wilson went down, going to be out for a while. I have 2 quarterbacks. Logan's got a surplus of running backs. There's a clear trade possibility there. But yeah, I think there's little things, maybe Godwin for Fournette, one of those things. That's something that, could possibly be in the works going forward.
Gotcha. Logan, let's go ahead and turn to you. You did lose Russ. Big loss for you. You still managed to pull out the win this week as your team fucking exploded. What's your plan? What are you thinking?
So I'm noticing a lot. I think I'm going to look at the waiver first, go through that. But there are a lot of quarterbacks on benches that I want and need that are pretty solid. I mean, there's a lot of solid quarterbacks that are scoring 25 points a game that are on benches right now. And I'm a whore that needs a quarterback. So y'all send me some trades and I'll jump on them.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to touch on for this is I don't think that's the move. I think being proactive in this, and that was kind of where I was alluding to, is I've been kind of searching today when I had an opportunity to see what I could send other people, because I think a lot of people are going to be sitting and waiting right now. If you can offer something that actually makes their team better, I think that would be the move. So I think if Logan were able to send like a Melvin Gordon or a Mike Davis, one of those like valuable secondary running backs for a good replacement quarterback, I think that would be a pretty easy thing to be able to pull the trigger on for him.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's kind of my plan. If someone does need a running back too, and they're decent, they get you a good 15 points a game with one of your quarterbacks that you're never going to use on your bench. I'm here for it. So, but yeah, it does suck. I mean, it is a middle finger, which is just crazy that he's possibly going to be out till at least week 9. I think they have a week 9 bye. And so he'll be back week 10. So That does suck. I was definitely relying on him throughout the season.
The good news is it's always easier to replace for quarterback points than running back points. So I'd say you're a little better off than Mike.
And you have strong leverage in the sense that you could start a Taylor Heineke for a week, see how that goes for you, and then if it doesn't, pull the trigger there. But you have the leverage when it comes to a lot of these trade negotiations. That's got to be a good feeling.
Correct. And a sneaky Daniel Jones. I mean, he's probably going to be out this week, but still, he's I'm surprised he's still on the waiver.
I don't think he knows where he is currently.
That guy's entire wide receiver corpse is in the ground, dude. I don't know what that guy's gonna do.
That was so sad.
All right, second time. Injuries. We had Juju. Looks like he's out for the season. Not I guess a huge fantasy implication there. I guess maybe if you're Austin's team. I'm kind of interested to know what y'all's thoughts are of who does this help? Does this mean more targets for Deontay and Najee? Do you see Washington start getting an expanded role? How does this affect fantasy in general?
Yeah, Logan, you go ahead and take that real quick.
I think Najee. I think they're just going to work him to the ground with these pass catches and this PPR. I think it's just going to be Najee and Chase Claypool, I think. And, of course, there's Deontay Johnson who's consistent, but kind of the in-between. Juju was never really there that season. Never been a big Juju fan. So that's what I'm thinking. I think Najee is going to get a big jump.
So I would actually lean towards the Claypool bump. If I'm a Claypool owner, I'm excited about the prospects of this simply because they use Juju for a lot of the short yardage gadget, kind of quick downs, get some yardage real quick plays. And I think Claypool's kind of a Swiss Army knife where they like to use him in kind of those jet motions, jet sweeps, those sorts of things. So I think he gets a little bit of a bump. I think Deontay gets the receptions, has good, strong usage regardless of what the game plan or flow looks like. I don't really think they trust either of their tight ends right now. And Najee's already getting 25 touches a game. I think it'd be foolish to up his work even more.
Okay, and then we had some minor injuries. Kenny Golladay, he's on my roster. He's really not going to see the starting lineup anytime soon anyways. But I think that more affects just the Giants offense. They're all going down. Curtis Samuel, if he's still rostered, I don't know what the hell you're doing. And then Damian Harris. I actually don't know what's going on with him. Michael, catch me up on Damian Harris.
Yeah, he left the game with a rib injury that checked out to just be, he had a hard time breathing after the game. They got him checked out. Everything looked fine. Looks like he's on track to play this week. I think if I'm Austin, this couldn't be a worse time to have a Kamara bye because Damian Harris would not be someone that I'd be comfortable starting. I think you could probably see a timeshare with him, Ramondre Stevenson, and even Brandon Bolden. I think that's going to be an ugly backfield this week, especially against the Cowboys where they're probably going to be down and end up just throwing it anyways. So nothing major, but it does kind of knock his fantasy a little bit.
Yeah, I think I've been on record saying how little I think of Austin's team. And I'm looking at it right now and it is gross. So
it's about time to change the name too.
What'd you say, Logan?
I said I think it's about time to change the name too. Virus. Never liked it. In my work league that I don't care about, someone else has that name for a name that's killed millions of people. I mean,
well, it's clearly the Google search. It's clearly the Google search name that right. You just kind of what goes with this, and so, yeah, it's rough.
It's still not changed up his name. He's got to start with that red cup in the name. That's my thoughts.
All right. We appreciate your thoughts as always. Also, can you stop moving around so much because your audio sounds terrible. Just for you, so we're on a Zoom call, everybody, and Logan is constantly standing up and stretching like over and over again. It's very strange. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to free agency. Last week, obviously I spent a buttload of money on Damian Williams being in a running back jam. Dawson Knox went for about 15. Looks like that was a steal on Austin's part. So that was a good boost for his team. Any other free agency from last week that I'm missing? Big items.
Well, I don't know if it was big. CJ finally pulled the trigger on Dalton Schultz, a free agent tight end that nobody seems to trust him, but he just keeps week after week getting targets and getting volume. So I actually think that might pay out for him the rest of the year. So that might have been a steal. So Dalton Schultz was a big one. Nothing else really major of note. Oh, Kadarius Toney, my last round pick that I dropped and now I'm completely regretting, I think is going to be a solid play this week. Definitely a high floor. So we'll see. We'll see how that pans out for CJ. It seems like he's kind of getting some steals lately with his free agent finds.
All right, so free agency this week. So the big items are going to be Devin Booker and Darrell Williams for the Chiefs. Now, obviously, when we analyze immediate running back needs, Michael is one because he lost Saquon, 0 fab. then we know that Matt needs one pretty bad because CEH went down. So I think the big hitters this week are going to be Matt. I think you'll see Austin bidding for the reason you said, Michael, right? You don't really trust Damian Harris. I think you see Trenton bidding because his is kind of shaky with David Montgomery out. How much do you think these three guys end up going for? Anyone else that I'm missing that you think it's got to drop some fab?
Yeah, I think there's always a wild card that we don't ever really account for. I think Josh sitting at $84 could, and actually CJ sitting at $84 too. Two different reasons. I think Josh would do a phenomenal job by picking one of those guys up and then trading one of his starters, to really ramp up his receiving core. And I think CJ just stepping on the throat when you have a 5-0 lead, you're already locked in for playoffs, just kind of even pushing that envelope even more. That might be a play that he might do. So it'll be interesting to see. I think the guys with the power right now, Josh and CJ with the highest fab are in control. I don't see Nathan. Nathan's never really been a big spender of note that I've seen. I think Austin will go all in. I think Matt will go all in. I think Matt gets one, and I think either Josh or CJ get the other of the two big name free agents.
I think I agree with that. Logan, any different thoughts?
No, I agree.
Excellent analysis.
That much, honestly. So,
all right. So, any other I don't know if any other big targets this week. I think Mecole Hardman's on our wire.
Yeah, Mecole Hardman. I think he's going to get a little bit of a bump. You saw an increase in targets. I don't think the prospect of Tyreek Hill missing time or even missing snaps or being limited in any way is a real thing. But I do think coverages are starting to shift to basically just give everything underneath against the Chiefs. And you're starting to see they're having to change their game plan a little bit, involving more receivers. So there's a flex play for Mecole Hardman. I don't really see Darius Slayton or Zach Pascal as being guys that are needed to be on roster anytime soon. So the receivers are pretty thin in our free agency as well.
Yeah, and while we're on the Chiefs subject, so if y'all saw in the group text, Brandon Hastings had said, I think defensive have figured out Mahomes, which that's kind of what the Bucs did last year, right? You kind of have a two high safeties, force him to go underneath and not just chunk the ball. But I'm not going to ever doubt Andy Reid or the talent that is Patrick Mahomes. I think they figure this out. You probably need to incorporate the run game more. But do you have any fear for the Chiefs, or you think they're still gonna be a titan in the AFC?
I think that defense is a massive question mark and actually causing major concerns. I don't think they're in the same class as the Bills right now. I wouldn't put them in the same class as even the Rams right now. I think Cowboys could beat them right now as it stands. I think that defense is so bad that offense can't even keep up. So no, I don't have questions with that offense. I do have questions from the team, specifically from the defensive side of the ball. They can't rush the passer.
Yeah, no, their defense looks bad. They usually figure it out halfway through or so, starts to get better, but we'll see if they don't have the personnel there to do it. Who knows? All right, let's go ahead and dive into recent trades. So our special guest here, Logan, did an interesting move. He traded Calvin Ridley for Mike Williams and Hunter Renfrow. Now, Calvin Ridley missed for personal reasons, which is weird. Then he went out on a bye. So this was, in my opinion, CJ's attempt to capitalize on his 4-0 start, go get a player that's not going to play for a couple weeks, but should have higher potential. Now, after seeing Mike Williams blow up yet again, was it a good trade or bad trade? I'm going to start with Michael, then I want to hear Logan's thoughts on how he feels about it.
No, I think this was probably, I was talking to CJ earlier about this. I think this was the best win-win trade for both guys. So if we take a step back before the trade happened, and this isn't to dog Logan by any means, but he's sitting at 1-3 and his second round pick leaves for personal reasons. He was very, very, very closely looking at a 1-4 start. That's borderline point of no return when you're talking about fantasy football. He has to make a move at that moment. So he pulls the trigger, trades Mike Williams, gives himself someone to kind of lean on for that week, and kind of was a do or die this week, and it paid off for him. So I think it was a beautiful move. He doesn't have time to sit with Calvin really missing this week and having a bye next week. CJ, on the other hand, I think it may be changing pretty soon with how dominant Mike Williams has been, but I think we should all agree that Calvin Ridley probably has the higher floor or has the better potential going forward. So I think it was a good move for CJ as well. He's trying to upgrade his team and he's trying to make moves to push himself forward. So it was an interesting trade. It was a phenomenal trade for both of them. And clearly, if looking back, if Saquon plays that full game and Logan doesn't make that trade, there's a very realistic chance that Logan is sitting at 1-4. And I know that's a lot of what ifs, but he made moves to put himself to win, and that's what happened.
Yeah. So Logan, how are you feeling about the trade?
I agree, Michael. I had to do something. I mean, I was 1-3. I did not want to be Sacco again. I could not take 2 weeks of not having Calvin Ridley, and he was just not really doing it for me. He was consistently getting me 20 points a game, 15 points a game, but I needed that burst of Mike Williams. I would say wide receiver 1 for LA Chargers over Keenan Allen. Just saying. Currently, as it stands. So that's where I'm standing right now.
Okay, and thanks for walking away from the computer again. I'm always in the camp of, if it's a tie, give me the better offense. And it looks like the Chargers are rolling. Their defense doesn't look great. So I think Mike Williams may end up continuing to be a top 5 wide receiver. Huge touchdown upside, and Justin Herbert is an elite quarterback. Other trades, I traded Antonio Brown for a 32-year-old tight end with a punctured lung. Trying to fill a void there on my team. AB, of course, blew up as soon as I traded him. Y'all have any thoughts on that?
Logan, what you got? All right. Yeah, no, I think it was a good move on your part. I think Nathan maybe waited a little too long, but then was able to turn him around and get a solid flex play, and that's all you can really ask for. The Kittle injury was a little bit unfortunate, but losing both tight ends at the same time is not ideal. But Kittle will come back, then he'll have a solid starting lineup and be more balanced. I don't think AB is going to be someone who obviously does what he did last week every single week. I think there's going to be some low floors and high ceilings. But Nathan kind of likes that. It seems like he's riding with Tyler Lockett. So he's going to have weeks where he puts up 160, no problem. And he may have some duds, but he'll live with that. Yeah.
And then, the league's wide open. Right before we get into last week's matchups, we have a bunch of teams at 2-3, a couple 3-2. And then is it just the one team that's 1-4? Is that Justin?
And he's the highest scorer in the league. So if he wins this week, he's playing Austin. To preview a little bit, he's playing Austin with Kamara on a bye. I think it's safe to say Justin's the favorite in that game. He quickly goes to 2-4. There's going to be a lot of 2-3 teams that lose. He skyrockets in the rankings. So yeah, even the 1-4 team is sitting pretty well.
Yep, this league is wide open right now, except for CJ. He looks like he's running away with a guaranteed playoff spot. All right, let's go ahead and get into our. Well, you noted here bye weeks coming up. Do you want to touch on that at all before we go to the week 5 winners and losers?
Yeah, I know we have a bunch of week 7 buys. So this week we have a couple buys, but week 7 is bye week hell. I would just recommend people look at their bye weeks coming up, free agent accordingly. I know we have some big names coming in the free agency tomorrow, but if you're not in the market, if you're like me and Alex, where you don't have much fab money, maybe time to start planning ahead a little bit, playing your free agents accordingly, as the weeks go on. Bye weeks are brutal, and especially with how thin our league is right now, you need to get guys in advance. So that was just kind of the note I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, and based on our current pace, it's really looking like it could be a 1-game difference between making playoffs in that purgatory of not in the Sacco Bowl and then in Sacco. This might be one of our closest years yet, so it's going to be exciting, and everyone's got to grind the whole way because I don't think there's a clear favorite for Sacco at this point. It could be anybody.
Yeah, I think Austin is a favorite, but more me at this point. But yeah.
All right, let's go into our.
Hey, sorry, guys, I couldn't hear y'all earlier, so I missed that question about half a minute. So sorry about that. By the way. Anyways, move on.
Logan's annoying me. Move on to week 5.
My headphones.
Okay. Logan cheaped out on his headphones. He bought $50 off-brand AirPods. Everybody, that's why his sound sounds awful. Okay, week 5 winners and losers. I'm going to take the first one, Justin versus Matt. This was a fun matchup. I was paying attention to this one quite a bit. You had Matt looking like it was going to be a runaway. I think at one point he was projected like 160. And then Josh Allen does Josh Allen things and brings Justin back in the game. DeAndre Swift with some garbage time. So this was a pretty heartbreaking loss for Justin, right? Because like you said, he's 1-4 now. Even though his team's really good, it's hard to climb out of that hole. But the good news is everyone's pretty close. When we're looking at individual players, Tom Brady away is out of control. I mean, he's scoring, at home, he's out of control. I think they said that he hasn't scored less than 4 touchdowns at home yet, which is egregious.
That is wild.
Yeah. CEH being injured, huge hole in Matt's team. TJ Hawkinson has underperformed a few weeks in a row now. Are you worried about him at all?
I am actually. I think, especially with Quintez Cephas getting hurt, the Lions have no one to turn to, and I think defenses are scheming exactly on those guys. I think they're front loading everything. They desperately need Tyrell Williams to come back so they could stretch the field, because you're looking at 8-9 guys in the box to stuff the run, especially with those 2 pass catchers. They're keening on those guys. There's no one really stretching the field right now, and it's just making everything so much harder on offense for the Lions. That's why you're seeing all these field goals and all these short drives, as they just have no one to stretch the field. I think that's massively hurting TJ. He's too good not to start. There's nothing you can do. You have to start him if you have him, but maybe time to temper expectations because the cast is so bad around him.
Yeah, that team's a dumpster fire. And then you have Emmanuel Sanders, who scored a lot of touchdowns. I think he had something like 3 receptions and had 2 tutties off that. So he's a fun flex play. The Bills are going to continue to drop 40 points every week. I just think he'll have some weeks when he duds out. But the fact that Matt won with Dalvin Cook on the bench, that's a big win. That's a big win.
Yeah, you need to get wins any way you can. I think that Bills offense, to touch to your point, I think it easily supports 2 receivers. I think you could see a big week with Stephon Diggs next week, but I mean, they can facilitate many pass catchers in that offense.
Yep. And then on, Justin.
And with Clyde going out with IR, I mean, that's gotta suck. But Dalvin coming in, and he only really has one running back with Devin Singletary. I don't really trust Devin Singletary at all.
No, but I think he's got enough fab to get Clyde's replacement, so he should be able to coast okay. On Justin's side, his team's doing, across the board what you expect from it, getting carried by Josh Allen. Then you have some Travis Kelce as a floor, and then some other players just to help out. Adam Thielen,
practice patience for Justin, definitely. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but Justin is still at 1-4, a place where he can practice patience.
Yep, and there's not big enough lead, so he should be okay. Adam Thielen, I'm a little worried about, but I think we knew coming into it he was a touchdown upside receiver. Justin Jefferson seems to be a lot more of the yardage guy. And Kirk Cousins is playing at a high level, so he's spreading the ball around. Michael, take our next matchup. We have Chris versus Austin.
Yeah, this was as fun as the matchup with Justin and Matt was. This was the equally opposite matchup of the week. This really didn't have much to do with Austin. It had a whole lot to do with Chris starting Sam Darnold over Justin Herbert. I want to get where he was at. I think Philly's defense has been bad. Teams have gone all over them. The Browns defense has been extremely good. This is one of those cases or lessons basically, where you can get too cute when you're setting your lineup up. It is something to be said. Just play your studs, play your good players. Talent should prevail. I don't see Chris not starting Justin Herbert going forward. I think this was just an early season lesson that he'll quickly bounce back from. He'll have Christian McCaffrey back. Hopefully they don't give him 35 touches a game and they actually keep that man healthy. Chris will be fine, but bad week.
Yeah, and you have a couple down weeks from Darren Waller now. I'm not too worried about him. Logan, what are your thoughts? Obviously, Gruden, the big news on Gruden is he got canned because he was up to some shady business on his emails. Do you think the offensive scheme will change at all, or do you think they'll just continue business as usual?
I think business as usual. I think actually Darren Waller's going to get a lot more touches, kind of what we saw week 1 with Darren Waller. I think it's going to go back to that Derek Carr to the Darren Waller action. So I wasn't worried about him. I don't know why he had started Sam Darnold over Justin, but he looked like a 2-star man this week, you gotta say.
So it is important to note, Jon Gruden was calling the plays for the Raiders during his time as head coach. Greg Olson, their offensive coordinator, will be taking on play calling. Kind of West Coast guy. I think he's going to get Derek Carr moving a lot more, getting, like Logan was saying, Darren Waller, there's more targets, more easy targets of kind of rollouts and play action. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, the Raiders will be an interesting team to watch going forward.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and start us off the next matchup of CJ versus Josh. This is the first time I think CJ earned that win. He dropped 150. Josh is stuck in the running back vortex that is the Browns. I guess at this point, you got to start Chubb and Hunt. But, man, I know that's hard to do. Kirk Cousins was underwhelming. He had still pretty good output from his running backs. You just have no one that's blowing the lid off, right? You need to have some NOS on your team, be able to have somebody that here and there can drop 35 for you. It's not going to be Debo every week. So I think you continue to see Josh scoring around between 100 and 120, in my opinion. CJ,
he needs to stop getting cute. Playing Alex Collins against the Rams over Robert Woods or Kareem Hunt was just not the move. I don't really know the thought process with that one because the matchup wasn't even better. So at least with Chris, you saw a pretty good matchup. I don't understand that move. So it'll be interesting. CJ, that Jonathan Taylor game, that was phenomenal. And Marquise Brown is playing lights out. Pretty balanced win for CJ this week.
Yeah, Marquise Brown is looking like a steal right now. I bet Brandon's kicking himself a little bit for that one. Michael Carter was also a good pickup for him. I dropped him early on. The Jets didn't seem to be using him a lot, but he seems like he's a pretty good little scat back. He can catch it. They're running him a lot. So good running back pickup there for Siege.
So far, CJ has had by far the best free agency I've seen this year. I think the pickups of Kadarius Toney, Myles Gaskin, Kenneth Gainwell, Dalton Schultz, and Michael Carter all have value, and he's been able to scoop all those guys up. So it's been pretty interesting to watch CJ build his team through free agency.
Yeah, I see CJ working a lot harder this year. I mean, like you mentioned, he's built a great team. He's making good free agent acquisitions with still 84 in fab, which I think is something you should highlight.
Yeah.
He hasn't had to blow that low. He's found little gems for cheap. And then Stephon Diggs.
I was going to say,
sorry,
go ahead.
I was just saying Stephon's been underperforming, so he still has even higher upside. Logan, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that his team is looking like a 5-0 team as the weeks go on with his free agency pickups compared to when he started 3-0. It just looked like a debacle of how he started 3-0, but it's looking a lot better is what I was going to say.
It's a well-rounded team. All right.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of a beneficiary of the Monday night game. It was absolutely phenomenal watching these two teams kind of wreck each other. But let's start off with the winner, Trenton beating Nathan by 3 points, even with a kind of a down week from Mahomes. I think that might be the floor for Patrick Mahomes, which is crazy. Huge game from Jamar Chase, proving to be absolutely worth the number 5 pick. I don't think it should be an argument anymore. He's putting up numbers. They're comparing it to Randy Moss's rookie season. I mean, it's foolish what he's doing. 41 points from Mark Andrews was really what sealed the deal. And then everyone else really played fine. He was able to replace his running back with Jamal Williams, put up 8.5. It's not good, but it's not like he completely blew it out. Like that's what you expected from Jamal Williams. Got 8 points from his kicker. Those are always bumps. Nathan with the second highest point total this week, I believe, still losing. That is a brutal loss, getting 50 points from Lamar Jackson. Zeke is fine. All the worries that were coming from weeks 1 through 3 are completely gone now. He's a must start every week, obviously. Antonio Brown, it sucks. These are the things that suck about these losses is you waste performances from boom bust players like Antonio Brown. And I think that's the thing that's frustrating in these losses. Nathan's team is looking fine though. I think he'll be good going forward. Once he gets George Kittle back, he's going to be a contender in our league. I think he's probably looking like a playoff team. So it sucks. It's not good scoring second most and still losing, but sometimes it happens.
Yeah, so it has to be awful to think if I just didn't start a defense this week. If I just didn't start any defense this week, I would have won because they got him -6 points.
Yeah, that I've never been in that situation, and I hope to never be. It's not like the Cleveland defense is ever a bad start. They've looked phenomenal. It just sucks. Justin Herbert was on that day.
Whew. Logan, any thoughts on this matchup before we go to the next one?
Yeah, I was gonna say the Browns Chargers game was like the Texas OU game. It was just they wanted them to score at that point, so it's hard to start defense against the Chargers. I believe, even though the Browns are that good of a defense. Yeah, Zeke is looking like Zeke again. I wish he was like that last year. And like I said in Broken Bow, Keenan Allen isn't that good. Receiver number 2. So those are my thoughts.
Real quick, that Texas OU game, I stopped watching when the Longhorns were up 21. They ended up blowing him out, didn't they? The Longhorns blew out OU, Logan?
No, sadly, no.
Oh, what happened? Did they lose?
They did lose.
Oh,
yes.
that's embarrassing.
You don't realize how tired you are until that game is over. And you're like, wow, I've been up for 8 hours since 6 a.m.
Yeah, I had no dog in that fight, and I needed a cigarette after the game. That was wild. Texas has become the best team at blowing leads. I don't know what's going on with that program, but absolutely astounding how big they are, yet how bad they are.
All right, let's move on.
It's a lot of sophomores and freshmen is what I'm going to say. We're a young team with a new coach. That's all.
They are the University of Texas. They should be dominating.
Okay, I brought this up to diss Logan. I have no interest in college football.
Sorry, let's move on.
Next matchup. We're going to now Michael versus Logan. Michael just seems a little sadder today. Maybe it's Tuesday blues. I think it's the L. But this was rough. Obviously, you had the Saquon injury, which affected him big time. Getting 18 points out of Stafford is not going to cut it, right? You need your quarterback in a 6-point touchdown league to be dropping over 20 points, ideally over 25. Gibson had a day. That trade's looking good. He gets a lot of touchdowns. Disappointing output from DJ Moore. But as we saw, Sam Darnold was ass. And I think better days are ahead. Yeah, you're getting probably a little frustrated with those Philadelphia tight ends. Maybe with Dallas testing positive, it'll just be the Zach Ertz show. And then Amari's going to do Amari. You're going to have good weeks, bad weeks. At 15 points, I think you're happy with that. On Logan's side, Russell being injured, still coming away with the win. To give props to Logan, Derrick Henry, I think if we redrafted today, would be the number 1 pick off the board. Great pick, great usage. He just doesn't get tired. And Leonard Fournette's been nice. I don't know if that will continue. I think he keeps getting some touchdowns, but that's a high output offense, and it seems like he's the guy. I don't know really what the snap share is or the carry difference. Have you looked into that at all, Michael? How many carries is Ronald Jones getting in comparison?
Yeah, he's the clear cut back. So he had 62% versus Ronald Jones. I think didn't have the other 38. I think it was shared with Gio a little bit. They involved Gio Bernard as the game went away. I don't know if we remember what I said last week, but I've been on the Lenny train for a while now. I think it's been pretty clear that he's the lead back there. Believe that so much so that I just sent Logan a trade offer for Chris Godwin for Leonard Fournette straight up. So
I was going to mention that.
Yeah. So I've been saying this for weeks. I think Leonard Fournette is a solid RB2. Great pickup by him. So yeah, I think he's pretty set with his running backs, especially with Melvin Gordon being his RB3 and Mike Davis being his RB4. I think Logan might be challenging Josh for best running back bunch in the league right now.
Yeah, well, whenever else just struggling to find
I'm definitely willing to make it easier for Josh so his brain doesn't explode with the Kareem Hunt and Chubb.
Where are you going with this?
He could just go ahead and give me Kareem Hunt, and I can give him one of these running backs if need be. So make it easier for him.
Okay.
But I was going to
using
stay
the
with
podcast to push our trade agendas across here, Logan.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at Logan's team real quick, the weak point I see is the flex, right? Odell Beckham's gross. They dropped 42 points, and Odell had 4 points. He had a crucial drop there that I think kind of lost him the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you look at his options, and I mentioned this earlier, Curtis Samuel shouldn't even be rostered, and he's holding on to him for some reason. I think you're scared flexing Mike Davis. Sterling Shepard's injured. So his flex should be interesting. Maybe even just go with the Renfro for that PPR upside. I think that's
where I was about to go. I
Yes,
think
sir.
you buy your 10 points in the flex and move on. You're going to get 40 from Derrick Henry every week. So that I think Hunter Renfro is probably the plug and play flex going forward.
All right, and the final matchup of the week, me versus the Stinky Pits. Michael, I'll let you take this. I will say one comment, which is kill me. But you go ahead and take it away.
I think there's going to be brighter days. You still have clearing away. It's phenomenal. It's got to be fun watching Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill every single week. Tyreek Hill had a bad week. He still scored 15 points. You're going to have some running backs coming back. I think Chase Edmonds, good bench this week. I think he's going to be someone you start going forward. You're going to get Gronk coming back, who's going to get you some touchdowns. He's going to have big weeks. He might have some duds, but for the most part, he's much better option than a lot of tight ends right now. It's interesting, and I want to get your opinion because it's weird even asking, but Aaron Rodgers, like, is there an upgrade possibility from Aaron Rodgers from a fantasy football perspective? He seems to be kind of mid QB1 pack right now. When you drafted him, everyone thinks of Aaron Rodgers as, top 3 quarterback, but it's interesting to watch him in fantasy this season.
Yeah, and this kind of offense, Matt LaFleur's offense, you saw an outlier last year of his MVP season because he just threw 40 touchdowns. And I was hoping for that again, but I think you're right. I'm getting low-end quarterback 1 output. My floor is high, which is good, but I haven't seen him just rip off 3-4 touchdowns except for 1 game. So yeah. I'm hoping that comes to fruition because if he's only giving me 20 something points, it's going to be it's going to be a pretty 500 team, I think.
Yeah. And to continue on this matchup though, I think you're going to probably, I think Michael Pittman's a flex play going forward. I think he's a pretty easy flex play. Actually, I think he's showing he's clearly the wide receiver 1 on that team. Even if they're bad, he's still making plays. And then going over to Brandon, he popped this week again. I think he's sitting really pretty with his starting running backs. Now he doesn't have any depth, but while those guys are healthy, I think he's going to be comfortable every single week. And the Kyle Pitts show, he showed up. Kyle Pitts is playing like that number 4 overall pick that everyone expected him to be. It'll be interesting to see with Brandon. And this is someone who I've been trying to trade one of my quarterbacks to, because he seems like he's a team that is very clearly in the quarterback market. I think he's in a bit of a denial. I think he thinks Ryan Tannehill is still the answer moving forward. I personally think it's time to hit the panic button, especially with the injuries to the wide receivers. Even though A.J. Brown's back, we don't know how healthy he actually is. And Derrick Henry's on a mission to repeat what he did last year. Logan, what's your thoughts on Ryan Tannehill? Do you think Brandon's better served moving on from him, or do you think he should practice some patience with him?
Yeah, I think he wasn't, because last year he was a consistent 24, 25 points a game. I think I have him in my work league, and I got rid of him in week 3, I believe. So I definitely think it's a panic of needing to scramble for another quarterback. Derek Carr on his bench is not the answer either.
Yeah, he was thinking that Trey Lance was going to be the answer. He got hurt, but even when he was playing, the rushing volume wasn't able to pick up for his poor passing. I think that offense is good under Kyle Shanahan. I think it's a little scary from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, and just to finish off on this past week's matchup, so I was feeling pretty confident this whole game, and then the 4th quarter of that Browns Chargers game kicks in, and Austin Eckler rips off 3 tutties on me in 1 quarter, which was just a real kick in the groin.
Yeah, that's a brutal way to lose. Those were the 3:00 games too. It just went bad. Tough losses, man. Tough losses all around.
Yep. All right. For the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and do a rapid fire pick 'em because we're losing Mike in about 10 minutes. He might hop off. We can't finish. Logan and I will finish it off, but we're going to try to get as many here as possible. Michael, start us off with our first one, Josh versus Matt.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I think Josh has Debo Samuel on a bye, which is going to be huge for him. He's had problems picking the right starters, but as it stands now, he has Kareem Hunt and Robert Woods starting for him. I think James Robinson against Miami is a good play. He needs to upgrade his quarterback. I don't think it's going to be enough, though. I think Tom Brady's going to kind of torch the world again. I think Dalvin Cook is actually back this week, going to put up points. I don't think the DK Metcalf drop off is going to be too much. I think Tyler Lockett's actually the guy that suffers from that one. And then the Mike Evans stack with Tom Brady should pay off well. I'm taking Matt.
I'm going to take Matt as well. I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, I'm going to take Matt. I think DK is going to be wide receiver number one. I mean, Geno Smith was just force feeding him the ball when he came in. Tom Brady, y'all said, away at Philly primetime game is just going to get at least 35 points.
Yep. The only thing I see for Josh is he may have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt eat this week. I think Chandler Jones is out for Arizona. So it's going to be a big running back day. But outside of that, Matt has more talent across the board. That's all three of us for Matt. Let's move on to Justin versus Austin. I'll start us off with this one. I can make this one pretty quick. I think Justin's going to kill him. You got Josh Allen versus Tennessee. Awful secondary. They're going to eat. DeAndre Swift should be able to run on Cincinnati. Travis Kelce at Washington. Mahomes is probably a little pissed off. You're going to see some big points there. And then on Austin's side, I mean, you're starting James Conner and Damian Harris. AJ Brown versus Tre'Davious White. I just think that it's going to be a rough go for Austin. Any different opinions for y'all?
No, just to further that point, and what a good game for Justin after all the crap that he's had to deal with tough matchups and things like that all year. It sucks for Austin, and I don't blame him because he's just in a tough spot. He's having to start Kyler Murray and James Conner, Dawson Knox, and Cole Beasley. So it's almost like he's shooting himself in the foot when he scores because he's limiting options for the other guys on his team. It just sucks when you're in a position where you have to start two guys on the same team.
Yeah. Logan, any difference?
Yeah, I was going to say, Justin is the most chill one for like his personality. He's like, yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's another week. I have next week. So him sitting there, I don't think he really cares. And I think he's going to dominate in this game.
All right, next matchup, Brandon versus Trenton. Michael, take it away.
Yeah, I think you touched on the Patrick Mahomes being pissed off, going to light up the world. I think he goes off. I think Detroit secondary is so bad that Jamar Chase has another big game. I think Trenton's got a clear-cut advantage. Brandon has Kyle Pitts on his bye, so hopefully he changes his name. Yeah, I don't see anything. Terry McLaurin going against Kansas City, that could be a monstrous game. He could very, very easily end up wide receiver one. I don't think Heineke is very good at all, though. As an Antonio Gibson owner, that offense is struggling, and Heineke is not a good quarterback. I think people are lying about how good he's been, but yeah, I don't see anything that's really pulling me towards Brandon's side. I think Trenton goes to 5-1.
Yeah, I was trying to find something myself, and Trenton's matchups look good. You have Devontae Smith against Tampa Bay secondary. They're going to have to throw the ball a ton. Cooper Kupp against the Giants, like you said, with Jamar Chase. Running backs are his obvious weaknesses. I think you'll have two pretty games out of them, but it's hard to not go Trenton here. You going with Brandon, or are you sticking with Trenton as well, Logan?
Yeah, I'm going Trenton. I love Brandon's running backs. I hate the rest of his team. I hate Trenton's running backs, but I love the rest of his team. So,
all right, Logan versus Nathan. Let's move on to that one. Pulling it up right now. All right. So Derrick Henry versus Buffalo. Maybe they'll slow him down. It's a hard thing to do. The only thing I can think of is if they're blowing him out, then they may be forced to throw the ball more at Tannehill. And so that could hurt Henry's output. But other than that, I see pretty good matchups for Logan. Mike Williams will probably have another day. You got Lamar Jackson against the Chargers. Zeke against New England. Oof. You're right about Tyler Lockett. I think he's hurt. This is a tough one. If Gronk doesn't play, I think you see more output from AB again. I think I'm going Nathan. I'm going Nathan. Sorry, Logan.
Yeah, I think a lot of things went right for Logan last week. And it'll be interesting to see. I think Mike Williams, I would have said this last week about going against Cleveland with Denzel Ward, but he still popped off. So take this with a grain of salt. I think Marlon Humphrey specializes mostly on the outside, and Mike Williams plays mostly on the outside. So you might see a shadow opportunity there. So maybe temper expectations. I'm taking I'm taking Nathan on this one. Logan has an unfortunate aspect of having to find a new quarterback. So partly is because he has his quarterback is out. But I think Nathan's team is pretty solid right now. So I think New England is very bad against the run. So I think as an Amari Cooper owner, I'm kind of tempering expectations for him because I think the Cowboys are just going to run all over the Patriots next week.
Logan, who do you think's going to win?
Yeah, I think it's going to be close, but I think Nathan's going to win too.
No. Well, Justin last week tried to go that route of being modest and saying he was going to lose, and he did indeed lose. And then I'll go ahead and start us off with CJ versus Michael. Sorry, Mike. I think this is going to be tough for you with Saquon out. If you trade to get a running back, it can put you in a better spot. Jonathan Taylor is probably going to eat versus Houston. I think Stephon Diggs is going to find the end zone this week against Tennessee. And then on your side, Zach Ertz may actually have a day. That's a sneaky play. I think he may actually end up getting you 10 plus points. But if CMC's back in and Chuba's not playing, your running back plug-in is scary. And if you have to trade Chris Godwin for Leonard Fournette, then you're in the situation of having to flex in somebody else. So I'm going to take CJ here. What are your thoughts, Logan?
Yeah, the Chuba, I know Christian's going to be starting this week, hamstring, but he will be starting from what I saw. Ertz, I think with Devin White's going to cover him, and I don't think he's really going to get that many touchdowns. So I'm going to take CJ as well, and I think Dak's going to go off against him.
Yeah, obviously I'll know who I'm going to go with. I think there are a couple options that I'm looking for, specifically with DJ Moore going against Minnesota defense. I think this is a big game for him. I think Kansas City not being able to stop really anything. I think Antonio Gibson, if they don't get game scripted out so quickly, I think there's an opportunity for him to get a couple touchdowns. The Rams going against Mike Glennon and Devontae Booker and a bunch of no names on offense. They're projected to get 4.5. I think I should be expecting at least 8, and so I think there's a good plus on that side. I don't know if Kadarius Toney is gonna play. It sounded like he got precautionary x-rays, but then Joe Judge said it doesn't look like it's season ending, so that's weird verbiage to say. So could possibly not have Kadarius Toney. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm obviously hoping for McCaffrey to sit out this week. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
And that brings us to our last matchup, which is myself versus Chris, one of my closest allies in the world. We're both 2-3, so one of us have to leave this week at 2-4. And I too am hoping that Christian McCaffrey sits. But what are y'all's thoughts on this matchup? Michael, start us off since
Mike.
You're about to drop off.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think this is even though Chris is going to right some of the wrongs he made last week, I think this is a week where Alex takes a dub, specifically because Chicago has not been good against the pass. I think Devontae Adams eats. Rivalry game, divisional opponent. Aaron Rodgers thrives on those. I think get right game for the Kansas City Chiefs. Washington has been awful on defense this year, which is just crazy to me. I think Tyreek Hill gets 1, maybe 2 touchdowns. Gronk may sneak a touchdown. I will say I think I would play Pittman over Jacoby Myers in the flex, but even still, I don't think, either one you go with. I think I'm still picking Alex on this one. For Chris's side, I will say, Zach Moss going against Tennessee. I think Buffalo has been committed to being a more balanced team, and Zach Moss is showing these probably the lead back in that offense. I don't see too much that's making me super excited other than Christian McCaffrey playing against Minnesota. That's his chance this week.
I'm actually going to go with the dark horse. I'm going to go with Chris. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to start. I mean, they're going to ease him in, but what's easing in for Christian McCaffrey? He's going to get you at least, I think, 22 points this game. It sucks that he doesn't have his boy Cordell. But I don't know. I like these matchups on this side. Miles Sanders, I think, is actually going to do fairly well if they just throw it out to the outside to him. But
I'm not worried about Sanders at all. If CMC's back, he'll do great. I'm obviously worried about that Justin Herbert Baltimore matchup. That could be a very high scoring game, and you could see Herbie dropping another 40 burger, which would be a problem because I just don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to have to throw that much. I think they'll go up quick and early, and that could limit my upside.
I think Deontay Johnson and Darren Waller are each going to score 25 as well. Just saying.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that wraps us up for the week. I know, Michael, we're right at time here. We nailed that timing. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Logan, thanks for joining. Your audio was trash, but at least you got a win this week. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Peace.
Hey,
and I'm signing off on it.